Hello and welcome. My name is Faz Kareem, and I want to welcome everyone to Outlook 2019 Beginner. A quick little virtual training session you can take, designed to go ahead and teach you about Outlook using the newest version, 2019, or if you're an Office 365 user like me. Now, Outlook 2019 has a lot of great features that have been enhanced, and some things have changed if you're coming from an older version like maybe 2010. And in this course, we do cover quite a lot of the beginner topics here. Now, we do a deep dive of learning about the interface of Outlook and what's changed and what's new, talking about things like our folder pane, the navigation pane, the inbox, and our reading pane, and how we can customize those. Now, once we do dive in and learn about the specific areas, we'll talk about features that we might want to utilize when formatting messages, like delay delivery, or some keyboard shortcuts that you might want to utilize when sending and creating those messages. Now, if you do have emails that you have to commonly send or pieces of text and information that you have to add to emails, we'll learn about something called quick parts that you can quickly add to your gallery so that you can add them and insert them to all of your future emails. And once we do cover the inbox and Outlook, we'll take a little tour of our contacts and how we can save contacts, as well as book appointments on our calendar and modify the view by adding additional time zones and changing the color. And we'll finalize this and end off the beginner course by talking about our Outlook Notes section and how we can utilize it and access it via the desktop app or on the web. I'm pretty excited to talk about these materials with you. I do hope you enjoy. Very important to do try out the exercises that I put together in this class and just pause the video. I'll be here waiting. And I hope you all enjoy and use this information and it becomes useful for everybody. Thank you so much. Let's begin. So, here I am inside of Outlook 2019, or Outlook 365 if you're an Office 365 member. Now, I do want to point out that there has been some differences throughout the years with Outlook, but there's also a lot of things that stay the same every time the new software comes out. Now, I do want to point out that since 2007, way back in the day, right? They've had something on the top part of every one of your Office products, whether you're using Word, Excel, PowerPoint. The top of your screen is going to be called the ribbon. Now, I do want to point out that if this ribbon sometimes disappears and vanishes before your eyes, I do want to point out that in 2013, they've added in the ribbon display options. Now, with these ribbon display options, it does modify the way you view your ribbon. And I always recommend people to always view the ribbon with the tabs displayed at all times, as well as the command groups, because every ribbon has tabs and command groups. Now, whether you're in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, you'll notice that there's a ribbon. And if you take my beginner courses of each one of those softwares, you'll see that I talk about the ribbon. Now, the ribbon interface allows us to quickly access and navigate to all of our tools. I do want to point out that on the ribbon interface, there is a special area that I like to use. I'm going to go ahead and box it up now. Now, that area on the upper left-hand side there, to the left, is actually your quick access toolbar. No, not the database tool that Microsoft makes. Your quick access toolbar is available in all your Office products. Now, if you have a certain tool or a certain functionality or a certain button that you like to click or use inside of Outlook, Word, or Excel, and you want an easy way, or I should say quick way, to access it, you can make a toolbar. I don't want you to pass this up, so if you do need to add a certain item to your toolbar, just keep in mind that you can go to any single item. Maybe in my send and receive, I want to go ahead and add the send and receive all folders button to my quick access toolbar. If you do want to add any item, you can simply right-click that item, and you're going to notice that the first option is Add to Quick Access Toolbar. As you can see, I already have that up there in my Quick Access Toolbar, but you can add any single item, even the Update Folder option, Add to Quick Access Toolbar. I'm going to right-click and add that there. I do recommend that you should pause this video, maybe go into your Outlook, and maybe add an item or two. You can add the same one I added, the update folder item, to your quick access toolbar, just so you don't forget that that's available and customizable with a simple right click. Go ahead and try that out. You can pause the video, I'll be right here and come right back. Now, there is one special tab that acts unlike the rest. Now you're going to notice in all of your Office products, you have a special tab. It's called the File tab. The File tab. Now, it is also known as the Backstage View. I want to mention that, the Backstage View. It's because it's the only tab that you have to where when you click it, I'm about to click it, it ends up taking you behind the scenes. Now, with this behind the scenes info, I just want to point out there are a few settings, but something you should definitely notice from here is you can add your accounts, as well as modify account settings like delegating access to individuals, and include your out-of-office replies, internally as well as externally. A lot of settings can be found here, including the options for Outlook, but I do want to point out that the File tab is the one tab that acts different compared to the rest of these tabs. Now, the File tab is available in all your Office products for PC. And I just want to mention to you that if you want to add your automatic replies, your OOO, your out-of-office assistant, or even adding a secondary account to your Outlook client, you can do that from here. Now that we got a little tour of the ribbon interface, how about we talk about some Outlook-specific areas? Now, I do want to go ahead and point out that on the left-hand side of your Outlook, you're going to notice that you have a folder pane. Now, this folder pane is customizable, has some good tools that we can use inside the folder tab that go along with the folder pane. We'll talk about that. Now, you are going to notice right below the folder pane, I'm going to box that up too, that you have a navigation pane. Yours may look a little different than mine, I do admit. I have it in non-compact mode where it spells out the words, as opposed to having just those small little icons. I'm also displaying 5 items, so that way I'm also having access to my notes section of Outlook, in case I have any sticky notes I want to take. Virtual sticky notes, that is. Now, right next to our folder pane and nav pane, there's going to be another area that I'm going to box up, and I'm sure we know the name of this one. That's our inbox. Now, our inbox can be sorted, it can be swapped to show the oldest messages on top, or the newest. We'll talk about all that. Bottom line, our inbox is nicely displayed inside of Outlook. Now, you are going to notice right next to your inbox, we have a nice little area. And I'm going to do it in orange. And I do want to point out this nice large area is my reading pane. Now, my reading pane will allow me to read my messages directly from my inbox. There will be an option known as popping out that you can use if you do prefer that we'll talk about. But we have a reading pane now that we can zoom in and out of to increase the font size. Now, if you are coming from an older version of Outlook, you may be expecting to see on the right-hand side something known as the to-do bar. The to-do bar has your calendar, your task list, and your favorite contacts. Now, that was available in your other Outlook versions by default. But in this version of Outlook, you actually have to add and modify the view of Outlook in order to add the to-do bar. So, Outlook 2019, or Outlook 365, has somewhat of a new interface. It's slightly customizable. And now that we've done a nice little breakdown of the specific areas like our folder pane, our nav pane, our inbox, our reading pane, I don't want anyone to forget that this is called the to-do bar. Let's go ahead and now that we see all these areas, let's learn about why we use them. And what's the nifty tools that we need to know about for these specific areas? Starting out with our folder pane. Now that we know the names of all these areas, let's focus on our folder pane. Now I do want to point out that with the folder pane, there still happens to be a folder tab. That goes pretty nifty with it. So I'm going to go click on the folder tab while I'm on the folder pane. Now the folder pane allows you to go ahead and organize your emails into folders. There are great enhancements though that have come out that we might want to hear about when using the folder pane. Now, one of the first things that I like to notice with the folder pane, and one of the most obvious, is that it lets you create new folders. I've met people that have 20 to 30 folders, and I've met people that are like me that only have like about 5 or 6 folders. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder in my inbox. I'm going to go ahead and call it the folder. And I'm going to hit OK. There's my the folder. I can move it around and move the order of my folders. But I do want to point out that with your Outlook folder pane, you're so happen going to have a new option inside the cleanup command group. Now, if you do need to categorize your emails and move them into the appropriate folder, it makes sense to alphabetize your folder list first so that these all show up in A to Z order. I'm going to give that a click. Now my A's are on top and my Z's are on bottom for my inbox of folders. Go ahead and try pausing this video and taking a look at your folder tab and noticing how you have a show all folders A to Z, and give it a click and see the reflective change. Now, if you do want to turn that off, keep in mind once you turn it off, it goes back to the original order that you originally maintained it at. Now, Outlook and folders, they're useful, especially now that we can alphabetize them. But something I don't see used enough is something called the search folder. It's a filtered folder that only shows you emails that match a certain criteria. So if you want an email that only shows up only if it's from Liz, you can build a search folder for Liz. This way, it's not moving the email to a different folder, it's just displaying those emails inside of a folder for you. They'll still be in your inbox. I'm going to go ahead and add a new search folder to my folder pane. Now keep in mind with search folders, we have the ability to create one just for our unread mail. Seems kind of pointless now that we have an unread section. Also, mail that's flagged for follow-up will automatically show up there. But the most common one that I use in my world is mail from and to specific people, where I can choose someone from my Outlook contacts and create a search folder based off their name, and anytime they send me an email, it will automatically show up there and my inbox. A nice filtered view. I'm going to hit OK. Now, when I hit OK, it built me a search folder for my unread mail here, because I had that option selected. You're going to notice that all of your search folders will show up in the search folder area of your folder pane in Outlook. I'm going to go ahead and build another search folder for my coworker Liz here. My manager, actually. I want to make sure that any email she sends me, I'll automatically have in a search folder there. I'm going to go ahead and build one for mail from and to specific people. Now, since I did change the setting from unread mail, I have to add the person I want to receive it from. I'm going to choose them from my Outlook contacts. From there, I can filter out this list. There's my good old manager, Liz. And I'm going to go ahead and send that in and hit OK. Now, when I hit OK, it's going to automatically build me a search folder for Elizabeth, and all emails in my inbox will be displayed from there. I'm going to go ahead and right-click this folder and add it to the favorite section of my inbox so that I can go ahead and see if Liz has messaged me, and if I receive a new notification, I'll see a new number up there that Liz is the person that has emailed me. So, how about you try pausing this video, making sure that your folder pane is available and it's not collapsed. And I want you to go ahead and try adding in first the folder. And if you've done that, try adding in a search folder and noticing how a search folder shows up. I do advise everybody to add that to their favorite section so that it's easily accessed from the top. And if you do not have a favorite section, keep in mind that in the View tab of Outlook, I can go ahead and add the favorite section to my software if it wasn't available already. Pause the video, add at least one search folder, move it over to your favorites, and come right back. So right below the folder pane, we happen to have a navigation pane that we earlier talked about. Now I do want to point out the nav pane is pretty customizable, and I want you to take advantage of that. Now with this nav pane that we have here, you're going to notice that there's an ellipses, a dot, dot, dot. Now I do want to point out, if you want to access these ellipses, it's a way of modifying the settings for the navigation pane. If I go over to the navigation options, you're going to go ahead and notice that by default, Outlook does have compact navigation enabled, but if you want, you can turn that off by unchecking that box and allowing 5 items in the list. What that will do is allow us to add our mail, our calendar, our people, tasks, and notes all down there in our navigation pane. So we have easy access to them, and they're all visible on our screen. Now I do want to point out that since I have the nice settings, I have 5, and I have compact navigation, then I'm just going to hit OK. And then at that point in time, you will see full spelled out words popping out instead of those small little icons. Now I do admit, there's a reason why I do this. There's a reason why I like using the non-compact mode. The reason being is because there's something called peeking. I'm not making the term up, but it's called peeking. It's where we can essentially hover over our calendar and we can see a preview of our upcoming appointments as well as previous dates. I can also peek into my favorite contacts as well as my task lists, but there's no peek for notes there. It stops there. Now I do want to point out that with our navigation pane, there are a few shortcuts that we should use if you do like keyboard shortcuts. And if you want to go ahead and navigate over to the mail option, you can hit Control-1, and that'll take you over to mail. And if you were to happen to hit Control-2, well, if you guess calendar, you're right. It'll take you over to your calendar. And Control-3 will actually go ahead and take you over to the people, your favorite contacts. And Control-4 will take you over to your task list, where you can go ahead and delegate tasks, set a reminder, a due date, and a priority level to those tasks. Now I do want you to try out the non-compact mode. So how about you go ahead and pause this video, and I want you to go ahead and head over to the ellipses. And once you head over to the ellipses, I do want you to try out the navigation options. It's important to have 5 items and to use the non-compact mode by disabling it. So we have full spelled out words. Go ahead and pause this video. Give that a try. I'll see you all soon. Hopefully you're coming back from navigating and messing around with your navigation pane. But so far we've covered the first area, our folder pane, and the folders, how we have search folders available to us. And now we're covering the navigation pane that we just learned how we can switch over to the non-compact mode. Now this third area that I want to talk about is actually probably the most used area, which I would have to call our inbox. Now, our Outlook inbox is pretty customizable. And we're all different. So I want to make sure that we cover all the different possibilities of customizing our inbox and the ways we view it and maintain it. Now I do want to point out that with our inboxes, we do have an unread section. I do see sometimes that instead this is called focused, showing you your focused emails instead. But we have an unread or a focused section. And if we want to separate our inbox based off certain rules, like I'm currently using the date for today, yesterday, Wednesday, I can also change it. I can go ahead and filter my inbox to show me just my unread mail. directly from the inbox. I can also rearrange my inbox based off who I've sent it from, to, and I can also go ahead and categorize it based off the categories that I have assigned. Now keep in mind that with our inbox, if you need to find an older message, you can actually go ahead and flip the inbox around, showing you your older stuff on top. My older stuff on top, as you can see here. And at the very bottom, I'll end up having today. If I click this one more time, you're going to notice that I have today now. And I can go ahead and click again all my chevrons. And I'll go ahead and notice that I have just today visible on the top as opposed to the bottom. So our inbox is pretty easily maintained to go ahead and swap them around. Now I don't want anyone to pass up the opportunity to search through their inbox. Now, with our inbox, besides being able to customize it and navigate over to the unread messages, which are signified by a blue bar and bold blue text, you're going to go ahead and notice that you have a search box up top. This search allows you to filter, sort, and find those emails or the specific attachments that are in your Outlook inbox or a specific folder. I'm going to go ahead and click on the search here, and I'm going to go ahead and type in "have a nice weekend." Now keep in mind that with our search, we have a filter. We can go ahead and search in just our current mailbox, or if you have a current folder, you can do that as well, or even subfolders. And you can even signify whether it contains attachments, or who it's from, or certain keywords in the body while you search. As you can see, I found the message. It highlights it nice in yellow from my search area. Now, I don't want anyone to pass this up with our inbox, because you're going to go ahead and notice that the inbox search can also be filtered. Now, if you do have your cursor inside the search here, like I do, you're going to notice that a brand new tab pops up called Search. Now, if this tab is not there, it's because you're not inside the search, and it only pops up once you're actually searching for something. Now, you will notice that you have a refined command group, where if you want to find a more keyword search based off the from, the subject, or whether or not it has attachments, you can do that from here. Notice how it says has attachments and added the word yes for us. And if I want, I can go ahead and change that to a no if I need to. So, at this point in time, I do want you to pause the video. I do want you to try out just maybe expanding your inbox, making it larger. I want you to actually maybe play around with the filtering or the arrange by and see all the different options you have. Now, I do want to point out, I also want you to try out maybe flipping your inbox upside down, putting the older stuff on top. Now at the very end, once you've tried that, I do want you to find an older email by using the search. Now the search box is right up top, but keep in mind that you do have options with the search command group that you can use, like whether it has an attachment, whether it's from a certain person, or if you're looking for keywords inside the subject. Now keep in mind that if you recently searched for something, you do have recent searches as an option to go ahead and browse your recent searches that you've had. Go ahead and pause this video and try out the few things that we have with our inbox. And when we come back, we'll start learning about flagging and creating tasks out of email directly from our inbox. I hope you had a little fun playing around with the search, the sort, and the arrange by in your inbox. But I do want to point out that with the inbox here, you will notice that we do have a few additional settings. Now, sometimes an email has to be turned into a task. Now, you will notice that we do have a task list right down here. But other times, you might have to get a certain email and signify it for a follow-up flag. letting us know that we do have to do some form of action with that email. I want to discuss both and the differences between a follow-up flag and a task. Now, I do want to point out that a flag is typically the starting base. Now, when you hover over to a certain email, you'll see a little flag icon pop up where you can mark an email as a to-do item. I do want to point out that both a task and a flag show up in the same area, in the task area of our navigation pane. Right down there, tasks. So, now that we see this over here, let's talk about the differences. Now, when you do have a follow-up email, I'm going to zoom in here. You're going to go ahead and notice that when you hover over to an email, you can go ahead and mark a flag, letting yourself know that you do have an item to kind of respond to. And if you hover over to your task list and simply start peeking into the task list, you'll go ahead and notice that that task has been added as a follow-up. Now, if you do need to complete a follow-up, keep in mind you can check mark it, showing a check mark that the task has been completed. So a task is great, but keep in mind that even with task, I'm going to go ahead and unmark this one complete here. You can go ahead and modify the settings. I can right-click and make this task due tomorrow, this week, or even next week, or with a custom date. Commonly done thing with tasks are the ability to add a reminder to do the task. Now, if you do need to add a reminder, keep in mind that it's simply a right-click away from the flag icon that we have there. Pause the video, give it a try. Try creating a flag out of an Outlook email. Hopefully you had a little fun making that flag that we just popped up there. Now, I do want to point out that if you do need to make a task, which I call a follow-up on steroids, where you can add a due date, a priority level, and a percentage complete, it is a matter of just dragging over that specific email over to the task list. Now you will see an icon showing up when you drag it over to the task list, showing a plus sign, letting you know that you're about to create a task. And when you release, it'll show up the task window. And if you need, you can update the subject name, add a start date, a due date, a status, and a priority level. And all details of that message will pop up in the body of the task. Keep in mind that with tasks, you can go ahead and mark them complete, as well as assign them to someone else, and even make them reoccurring. I'm going to go ahead and save and close this task. And now I want you to try dragging an email over to your task list and filling out the details to create a task. And I do want you to check to see if it shows up inside of the task list as well. Pause the video, try that out. Hope to hear from you soon. Hopefully you had a little fun creating those tasks or those follow-up flags. Now that we're back, I want to remind everybody that so far we've learned about the folder pane in our folder tab. And we learned a little bit about the navigation pane in the non-compact mode. And we finished off with our inbox. Now, the next area that I drew out in our introduction was in orange, and it so happened to be called the reading pane. Now, I do want to point out that if you have a certain email that you want to read, you can select it, and the reading pane does show up to the right-hand side. I don't want you to think that it's always going to be on the right-hand side, because this is pretty customizable. You can expand your inbox or decrease it. And if you head on over to your View tab to change the view of Outlook, I want to introduce the fact that you have, I'm going to zoom in now, a reading pane. Now this reading pane allows you to modify the location of where the reading pane exists, whether it's on the right, the bottom, or entirely turned off to where you would have to double click to read the email. Kind of like how Outlook 2010 was. Now I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my reading pane is to the right. But I've seen a lot of people prefer the bottom setup, so I just want to show you how that looks, where the reading pane is simply moved to the bottom of your inbox there. I'm going to go ahead and switch my reading pane from the View tab back on over to the right-hand side, and I'm just going to adjust it to make it a little bit smaller. Now keep in mind from the reading pane that you can reply all, and even forward the message. But these are the kind of things that I like to really add to my quick access toolbar. Don't forget about that at the very beginning of the day. Where if you want, you can go ahead and add the reply button, the reply all and forward button instantly to the quick access toolbar by right-clicking and adding them to the quick access toolbar there, so that you have them available right up top, without having to navigate to a tab or wait to these contextual options to pop up. Now next to the ellipses, I do want to point out that you can start an instant message or forward as an attachment if we need to for this Outlook inbox email. But once you do hit reply, I want to mention that your reading pane will actually turn into the email pane, where you can go ahead and create the email. And if you do want to pop it out into its own separate window, keep in mind that you do have the pop-out option here. Now the pop-out option allows you to create an email in a separate window like I have here, to where you can attach a file directly from your OneDrive accounts if we need to, or your computer's location. Now from here, we can go ahead and include our signatures, attach file, and create the body of the message. Now something I don't want you all to pass up is the ability to use mentions. Now if you do have a message and you want to add someone to the to line, in Outlook you can go ahead and add an @ sign, and all of your contacts will go ahead and pop up. And if you want to do select a contact, you can go ahead and click the tab key, or you can select their names. It will automatically include that contact into the to line. So mentioning is a quick way to write out your emails without having to need to fill in the to line, so it could automatically just be filled in through the body of the message. As you can see, I'm using a mention right over here. Now if you do happen to use a mention or receive an email with a mention, I do want to point out that you'll notice that from your inbox, letting you know that you have been specifically mentioned in the body text of the email. I do want you to try out creating a new email. And when you do create a new email, try using mentioning to add people to the to line and see how that works out to you. I do want to point out that when a user receives a mention, they can actually click on the person's name to receive their contact information and their org chart and what memberships they have for Office 365. Go ahead and pause this video, and I do want you to try out mentions, which is also available in Microsoft Teams for your channels, teams, and colleagues. And come right back. See you all soon. Alrighty. So in previous versions of Outlook, I do notice and want to remind everybody that we used to have something on the right-hand side. It was actually called the to-do bar. It was really nice. They had bottomless mimosas on the weekends for $12.99. Now this to-do bar, though, it can be added back. Now, something I want to introduce to everybody from our navigation pane that we have in Outlook is a term. You may have known about it. It's called peeking, to where we can see our calendar, our people, which means our contacts, our favorites, as well as our tasks. Now, in order to peek in Outlook, all we have to do is just hover over each one of these items from our navigation pane. Now, peeking does help to see these upcoming tasks, your favorite contacts, and upcoming appointments and meetings. However, if you would like, you can go ahead and hover up to the top, and you're going to notice something known as Dock the Peek. Now, docking the peek is essentially adding the to-do bar back to the Outlook interface. This will allow us to see our upcoming appointments from the right-hand side. And anyone that comes from an older version of Outlook would appreciate that, because that used to be there by default. I'm going to go ahead and dock my peek here. Docked. I'm going to do the same thing for my favorite contacts there. And I'm going to do the same thing for my task list as well. Now this to-do bar is fully customizable if you want to expand it or even make it a little bit smaller. Now, you're going to notice that if you want to undock the peak, there will be a little X near each one of these items. And I'm going to go ahead and undock these peaks here because I prefer to use it without my to-do bar that I have there. Now, although we just docked our peak, there's more than one way of adding our to-do bar to the view of Outlook. So before we have you do a little exercise and practice out docking your peak and removing it, I want to mention that some individuals like to go to the View tab of Outlook to add in the to-do bar from the layouts. Now I'm going to go ahead and head over to the Layouts command group, and you're going to notice there's a to-do bar option. And if you click on it, you can see that you can add your calendar, your people, or your tasks, or entirely turn it off. Another area to where we can go ahead and add our to-do bar there. Go ahead and pause this video and check a look at your navigation pane and see if you can dock your peak. And then afterwards, go ahead and take a look at the View tab and see whether or not you have a layout command group and see if you can turn off the to-do bar directly from there. Come right back. Don't forget to press play again. Alrighty, at this point, we should have a good understanding of each specific area of Outlook, whether it be our folder pane or our navigation pane, even our inbox and our reading pane. I don't want anyone to forget about the to-do bar that we talked about earlier, although I've turned it off from the View tab. Those are the specific areas of Outlook that we like to use. Now that we've done a little tour of that, I think it'd be cool to figure out some formatting options for our messages when creating new emails there. I'm going to go ahead and open up a new email here. And earlier in the day, we learned about that really cool way of adding people to the to line, where you can use an @ sign and then type in their name. And then you can click the tab key. And that automatically adds their name to the to line of Outlook. But you will notice that I have a blind carbon copy line, a BCC line. And anyone I put here will be invisible, but also will see all the incoming messages and threads. So no one will know they're there. It's a blind carbon copy. Now BCC is one of those options I do mention that you have to turn on from the Outlook interface. So I'm going to go ahead and once I have a new message open, I'm going to go to the options. And under the show fields, I'm going to make sure that my BCC is on. Now the cool thing about that is once it is on, you don't have to turn it on again. It's on for all of our messages, and until you want to remove it, you can go ahead and go back to the options tab and give it a click and it's gone. I do like having that just for any instance that I do need to use it, and it just adds an extra row to the top part of our message there. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a subject here. And now that I have a subject, I just want to cover some basic keyboard shortcuts that we might want to use when we're using Outlook emails and writing out messages. Now, the very first one that I like to use is when I have certain text that I want to make stand out, I'll try to increase the font size. Because bigger means important, and I like to use a keyboard shortcut for that, and this works out from Gmail as well, don't worry. It's Control-Shift greater than. And that will actually increase the font size. Now, keep in mind that if you absolutely have to decrease the font size, sometimes we do, you can use the less than symbol, and that would decrease it. I can also go ahead and create a bulleted list. Now, using keyboard shortcuts does save us time, so on a new line, I will add a star, then hit space. This will convert the star into a bullet. So if I have a star and then a space, now I have a bullet. And if I hit enter, the bullet remains, but when I click tab, the bullet indents. I'm going to hit enter again and I'm going to click shift tab. And that goes back. Indents. Some commonly used shortcuts that I see, of course, from individuals that like to use Outlook is Control B, which makes it bold. Control U, which makes it into an underline, but most of us think that's a hyperlink now, so we don't like doing that. And then, of course, we have Control and I that makes it italic. Just want to point out the basics of formatting messages. And now that we have our BCC on, I do want you to practice these shortcuts. Maybe write yourself a little email out and send this to yourself, just so you have them all in your email inbox or maybe your notes page. So go ahead and pause this video and try going ahead and making a new email for yourself. And the first thing I want you to do is head over to the Options tab and turn on the BCC. Now, anyone that's inside the BCC will be invisible to the to and CC people, but they'll still receive all of the emails in the chain. Try that out. I'm going to go ahead and send that message on its way. So, now that we learned a little bit about adding some options for our messages and some formatting shortcuts, let's talk about actually adding files from our OneDrive accounts, or maybe including signatures that automatically add in to our email. Over here in my messages my messages tab that I popped up from a new email, I can go ahead and see that there's an include command group. Now, Microsoft Outlook is nicely connected to my Microsoft OneDrive account. And I can automatically save all of my attachments or grab my attachments from my cloud locations. Let me explain what I mean. So if I go to attach file over here, I can see that my recent items will be available. And if I go to the very bottom, I can browse this PC. Now, these files are available on my OneDrive account. And if I want, I can go ahead and attach them to this email file here. Now I can also go ahead and go to an attachment and I can save it directly to my OneDrive account. It automatically comes included to the email. Keep in mind that this is a copy of the file. Now, alternatively, I can also include my signature. But keep in mind that you first have to build your Outlook signatures, and you can even set a default signature for your incoming emails that you're sending or receiving and responding to. I'm going to click on the signatures option from the messages command group. And from there, we can go ahead and create a new signature. I'm going to go ahead and call this the Outlook signature. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to put it for the appropriate email address there. Now I'm going to assign this new signature for any new message that I create, and I'm also going to go ahead and assign it for any replies that I sent there. And all I'm going to do is just add a little thanks. I'm also going to go ahead and put my name. Now I can add more details if I'd like to. I can format it if I need to, but I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm going to hit OK. So now if I want to include that signature, I can go ahead and use my Outlook signature, and it adds it to the bottom of my emails. I do want to remind everybody that when I went to signatures, I did, and I can, assign the Outlook signature for my email signature for all upcoming emails there. My Outlook signature, I can hit OK. For any new email, I'll go ahead and automatically see my signature on the bottom. Now, these are some of the simple tools that we have when sending emails. Now, do keep in mind that if this email was a little important, or maybe had an action item, that this file maybe had to be received and had to have a little work on it, keep in mind that there are tags that you can use. I can go ahead and mark this as a low importance email, making it low priority. Or if I feel like the person really needs to see this, I can add a high importance tag to make sure that in their inbox that they know this is high importance, and they'll receive a little exclamation point in their inbox when receiving this message. Now, if you do want to be sure that someone has received your message and has actually read your message, I do want to point out that you can turn on Request a Read Receipt. And when an individual decides to go ahead and read that message and make it unread, it will prompt them to send you a message that the message has been read. I consider using this, but sometimes the individual will mark, no, don't send the message. And although they've read it, you will not receive the notification if they chose not to send it. I do want you to try this out though. What I mean is I want you to pause this video and actually make a new email. Add yourself to the to line, that's fine, but try out adding an attachment from your OneDrive account or even your computer. Now with that attachment, notice that there's a little chevron to where if you want to save the attachment or even remove it, you can do it from there. Now something you might want to consider is turning on the request a read receipt if you're very adamant on figuring out if they've read it or when they read it. Now this all works out great, and once you're happy to send the message, you can go ahead and send it, and it sends out right away instantaneously. Now there is an instance where you might not want to send the message right away. Meaning you might want to wait till tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning to send this message, but you're ready to write it out now. Now, if that's the case and you want that message to come out at a certain time, you can, instead of adding tracking, add in a delay delivery. What this will do is it's going to leave the email inside of your outbox until that time hits, and it'll go ahead and send the message. Outlook does have to remain open and active with the delayed delivery in play, and if it's closed, it will not send that message. I'm going to go ahead and maybe add a delayed delivery here. Let's take a look. Where if I want, I can go ahead and set up an option to do not deliver before a certain time frame, and I can close it out. And if you do want to turn it off, you can go ahead and turn that off as well, and just uncheck that box there and close it for yourself. No more delayed delivery. I'm going to send this message on its way. Go ahead and give those little pieces a try and come right back. So now that we played around with a little bit of our message options and formatting options, I do want to point out something we might want to do is save pieces of text so that we can reuse them quickly. Like this part of text, I want to go ahead and quickly save as a quick part so that if I have another email, I can quickly insert this quick part or this chunk of email or this piece of text in parts of my emails that I create in the future. In order to create a quick part, we choose to actually insert a quick part, but we can also make our own quick parts from there. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Insert tab to where I have a text command group. Keep in mind that I'm inside of a message window. I'm going to go ahead and go to Quick Parts. And as you can see, one of the options on the very bottom is Save Selection to Quick Part Gallery. Now, if I had forgotten to highlight this area, I want to mention that that option will be grayed out. But as soon as I have a piece of text highlighted, I can go to my quick parts and it'll be available for me. So I can go ahead and save the selection. And I'm just going to go ahead and call it the follow-up email. And I'm going to put it in my quick carts gallery. And I'm just going to categorize it as general, although we can assign and create new categories for our quick parts. I'm going to save it in my emails, my inbox. And I'm going to hit OK. Now, if I do have another email that I have to create, a brand new email, all I did was click on Control and the letter N, and that created a new email box for me. A nice little shortcut, Control and N. You have to have an email already open or Outlook at least open to do this. Now, if you do want to insert a quick part, I can go to the Insert tab in my quick part gallery. We'll now have a brand newly inserted quick part that I can automatically insert for any other future emails that I'd like. Now, I do want you to try this out. I want you to pause the video, maybe find a certain email that you commonly write out, or make one yourself right now, and then highlight the text. Make sure not to include your signature that's automatically generated, and then go to the Insert tab and save it as a quick part. After that, make sure to open up a new email, whether you hit Control and the letter N or click on New Email. Try to see if your quick part is accessible from the Insert tab, and come right back. Let's switch gears a little bit. We've been talking about creating messages and all the options we have. But now, I actually want to start talking about creating contacts from the people that are sending you messages or just adding people to your favorite contacts. Now, the most common way that I typically add people to my contacts is using my inbox in the reading pane. If you have someone sending you an email from your inbox, you can simply hover over to your reading pane and do a right click. What this will allow you to do is add to Outlook contacts, or if they're already in your contacts, add them to favorites, which will show up in the People pane when you hover over to it. Now, a lot of people will have this step confused and they'll go to their inbox, trying to right click, allowing them to try to save the contact, and it won't find any option for that. So instead, I'm going to go over to my reading pane and do a right click, and I'm going to add to my Outlook contacts, Tom Vorbis here. Now with this contact card that I have, I'm in the contact area. I can type in a full name and I can file it, whether it's last name first or first name first. Include the email and see how it will be displayed. And I can add any phone numbers relating and the business address. This will essentially build a little contact card that we can use. And we can go ahead and save and close it into our Outlook contacts. Now that Tom is in my Outlook contacts, I can also right click. And if I need to, I can open up his contact card. This will allow me to see all of the information nicely compact in a little card, to where if I need to, I can send an instant message, or I can go ahead and create a new email message to Tom and see his availability and how long he's been away. Go ahead and try saving someone to your contacts from the reading pane. Just pause this video and right-click their name and add them to your Outlook contacts. Hopefully you had a little fun adding someone to your contacts, and now I'm going to click on the People option because Outlook calls your contacts people. Now as you can see, I have quite a few contacts here. Now I can switch the view of how I'm viewing my contacts as well. Now I can switch over to the People view, give me a nice list of my contacts, or my business card view, which we were at, or I can see a nice little card view. I do admit that when you go into the business card view and then click on the card, with a double click, it will give you a notes section for if you want to have any detailed notes about the contact. I'm going to save and close it. At this point in time, I want you to just hover over to your People pane and take a look at your contacts and see if you have anything to edit. And if you do, play around with it a little bit here, and then come right back. Welcome back. I did a little jump. I went over from my mail over to my calendar for my navigation pane, but alternatively, you could also hit Control and the number 2, and that'll take you over to your calendar as well, if you need to go there. Now, when I click on my calendar, I'm going to go over to the Home tab of my calendar, where we can create new appointments and new meetings. Now, I do want to point out that if we want to access our shared calendars, or even our other calendars, or even calendars made from SharePoint sites or planner groups, we can go ahead and access our group calendars as well. Now, this calendar is customizable, and I first want to talk about some various ways that you might want to set up and customize the view of your calendar. So the first thing I'm a big fan of is changing the color of my calendar just to make it more personal. So inside the View tab of my calendar, I'm going to give that a click. I'm going to go over to the Color command group and just pick my appropriate color that I would like for my Outlook calendar there. So I can color code each of my appropriate calendars if I have more than one. Now, when I go over to the View tab, I have several ways that I can display this colored calendar by the Arrangement command group. I can see a day breakdown of my calendar, just showing me one day. I can see the work week, or I can see the full week including weekends. Now, previously we were looking at the month, but if you had to access more than one calendar at a time, I appreciate the Schedule view, because it lets you add multiple calendars and see them all in one display with the time zone in the top. I'm going to go back over to my work week view to point out that I also have a time zone showing up in my work week. Now, Outlook has now had the ability to have 3 different time zones for Outlook and Office 365, where if you have multiple time zones that you work with, you can have them all displayed here. let's talk about how you might want to customize your time zones and various options for the calendar before we actually book a meeting or an appointment. Now, in order to mess around with all of your Outlook options, it's very important to know that you have a File tab for that. Now, this File tab is known as the Backstage View in Outlook or any one of your other Office products, where we can access our options here. Now, within the options, you're going to notice that we have a calendar option. I'm going to give that a click, where we can go over to our calendar. I'm going to click on my calendar here to point out that I can start setting up my work times, whether it's the start or end time, and even if I want my work week to display individual days or even start on a different day of the week, I can do that. Now, me personally, I've changed my default reminder time to 30 minutes instead of the defaulted 15 that we have. The default reminder times here. Now, if I scroll down to the bottom, you're going to notice that there is a label known as time zones that you can find in the calendar. And if you want, you can show both time zones at the same time. I have time zone 3, time zone 2, and I can even show time zone 1. I can also swap the time zones so that they can be in a different order when they show up. Like so. Here, I'll change this one to the third one, and I'll change this one to the second one here. And I'll hit OK. You're going to notice that your time zones do pop up automatically. And now that we got a little bit of a play time learning about the arrangements and the color of our calendar from the View tab, I want you to try it. Alrighty, now hopefully you had a little fun playing around with the view of your calendar. But let's actually use the calendar now. Now with this calendar over here, I hope your organization is using Microsoft Teams because you can schedule virtual meetings that hold up to 300 people using the new Teams meeting from Outlook. That's if your organization is adopting Teams, but hopefully they are. Might be another thing like Zoom, maybe WebEx, but Teams does incorporate into Outlook nicely. But let's start talking about scheduling new appointments. We all know an appointment is just a slot on our calendar, and it's not inviting anybody. A meeting would be including more than one person, but an appointment is just for yourself. I'm going to go ahead and create a new appointment, and my appointment window will pop up. Now keep in mind that if you do need to convert this appointment into a meeting, you can do that. If you realize you need to invite someone to this appointment and convert it to a meeting, you can do it directly from this window. And my appointment window will turn into the meeting window. And I'm going to do a meeting with Faz here. Now keep in mind with this meeting, you can set up some options for yourself. Now for the meeting, I'm going to show that I'm working elsewhere here for this particular meeting. And I want the reminder time for this meeting to be for 30 minutes before the meeting starts. Now I can go ahead and set a reoccurrence for this meeting as well, so that I can go ahead and have it reoccur, whether it be weekly, monthly, or yearly, based off the start and end time and the duration that I've set. Now keep in mind, if I don't have an exact reoccurrence pattern, I can set a range of reoccurrence for how many times I want this to occur from the start date to the end date and how many occurrences I'd like, or if it doesn't end, I can put no end date. So I don't have to constantly keep booking these meetings. I'm not going to make this into a reoccurrence, but although I can from here, and including in Microsoft Teams if I'd like to. Now, with our meetings, we have required attendees, and we also have optional attendees. And we can go ahead and set the start time and end time. And if your locations are set up for your organization, you can click on the room finder and select the room for the location if they are set up already. Now, once you're happy with this invitation that you have, you can go ahead and send it on its way. And the meeting will be scheduled. Welcome back, everybody. Now, an area of Outlook that I don't want people to pass up on is actually our notes section. Now, if you don't happen to see the notes section and you're popping in, I do want to point out that you may not see it because it's inside the ellipses, or you have it turned off in the navigation options to not display all the items in the list. But I do have 5 items being shown, so that way my notes section is available. And let's go ahead and start talking about how our notes section can go ahead and create nice little sticky notes that we can save in our Outlook inbox. Now, these notes can automatically be created, and there's actually no saving. As soon as you go ahead and close out the note, it'll be saved inside of our notes window. And there are several different views that you can use. You can go over to the current view command group and switch it over to a note list, or you can view just the last 7 days of notes you have taken. Now keep in mind that if you do need to clean up this list, there is a delete option that you can use to go ahead and delete these extra notes. Now the notes section is one of those tools that are available on Outlook, but it won't be there on your mobile devices. Just to let you know, your notes will not pop up on your mobile devices. Go ahead and try out adding the notes section to your navigation pane if it's not there from the navigation options, and just creating your first little note. And that's a wrap. I want to thank everyone for making it all the way to the end and learning about Outlook using the newest interface. I hope this was helpful. We did go ahead and cover quite a few topics in terms of the interface, some functionalities that we want to use, and some keyboard shortcuts. I want to remind everybody there's quite a few other classes that you might want to sign up for or take a look at. And a big one that I maybe want to tackle after taking Outlook is Microsoft Teams, another business collaboration tool that you can use for channel-based work instead of email-based work. Check out our videos. I want to thank everyone once again for making it all the way through.